Hey there neighbors, Kevin here with Etrailer, and today we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Etrailer electric trailer jack here on our enclosed trailer. So if your jack's looking like our previous model that we swapped out for, and maybe it's missing some components, maybe it just really isn't working anymore, a trailer jack is something you're typically going to have to replace within the lifespan of your trailer, just because this isn't something where it is really going to be able to withstand the extreme temperatures and all the rain, snow, sleet, anything that's going to be out there in the environment. It's going to slowly start to wear this down, especially if you don't have the right protection. If you're not using a cover over it to protect it when it's not in use, then you can definitely expect to see the lifespan start to decrease on that. And if we take another look further down, you can see the foot plate for ours is starting to get concave because it's been beaten in so much. And at that point, now you're going to have water start to pool on here, and you can have other dirt and debris build up, and then now we're just sitting there and corroding out the foot plate, which is holding up our trailer. So it's an easy way for it to just kind of wear a lot quicker than what it really should be. So if we take a closer look at our E-trailer jack here, this is going to be a 3,500 pound rated jack. It's going to come with a nice LED light, so that way if you're hooking up or disconnecting when it's dark, which typically most people are going to be doing it at night because you're heading out on that trip right after work on a Friday. So it's nice to have a little bit of light, and with it being LED, it's not going to have a huge draw. There's no bulb you're going to need to replace over time. It's just going to be ready to work for you every time you need it to. Right below that, we have our up and our down button, so very simple to use. It's actually labeled too. You can see it right on the rubber portion covering our button here, so that way you're not going to get confused about it. When we look down at our foot plate, this is going to have more of a design kind of pressed into it, so that way it's not going to start to have that concave effect where over time it starts to wear through and then the edges start to curl up. So this is going to allow it to shed off water and other debris that might get kind of stuck on there over time. And that's going to help the lifespan of the foot plate, so we're not having to swap that out after just maybe a couple of seasons out on the camping adventures here. And this is also going to be powder coated as well, so now you got even more protection versus just your standard foot plates that typically are just zinc coated. When we look at our actual tube, so our inner tube, this is where our travel is. That's going to give us up to 18 inches of travel, and then our foot plate, depending on which hole you use, is going to give you up to an additional 4.5 inches. So that should be pretty well to cover what kind of height differences you're going to need to make sure your trailer's level. So another good thing to have with you is a set of leveling blocks. There's a bunch of different bases and stackable blocks that you can use to put more support down below your jack. So the concept here is the less of the inner tube that you have out, the more support you're going to have, because it's sitting more inside of our outer tube, so it's not going to be able to bend. So when you have that rickety feeling when the trailer's kind of wobbling back and forth, that is because maybe the jacks are sitting out too far and it's just not getting as much support as what it really could. So even if it's just a chunk of wood, you should still be throwing something out under there, something typically with a wider span than what your foot plate is too, so that way it can evenly disperse the pressure, and then it's not going to sink into the ground nearly as much. Now, working our way upwards, we have our outer tube. So the outer tube is going to be sitting below this flange plate here too, and that's what's actually going to drop through our coupler. So typically you're going to want a 2¼ inch tube. That's pretty much the most common one, and that's exactly what we have here. So it's going to be a really easy swap out. Now in the install that you'll see a little bit later, I did say that there isn't hardware included, but we just didn't have it with us at the time. But it is going to come with hardware as well as a manual override handle, which we can use up top. So in our case, when we got the trailer in, the battery was dead, so it wasn't going to work for us. We hooked up a jump box to actually power it and use it, and right now we're recharging the battery. But say you're out in the middle of nowhere and you don't have a way to actually charge it, all you got to do is grab out your manual handle. We'll pop off the little cover here, drop that in, and then we can use this to run our jack up or down. When it comes to these jacks, there is a couple of other options available, whether it's just your weight class. So with this one being 3,500, there is other options out there if your trailer is a little bit heavier. But the big thing here is you can have this come with either the hardwire set like we had, where we're just positive and negative hooking straight up to the battery, and then for those options where maybe your trailer doesn't have a strong enough battery to run it, or maybe it just doesn't have one at all, but you do have a 7-way on it, or on your tow vehicle, then you can get this with a 7-way as well. The drawback with that is if I was towing this trailer and it had the 7-way, I also have my 7-way for my light and my brakes. So I would have to unplug this every time I wanted to use the jack and then pop in that 7-way. So while there isn't a huge need for that on every single trailer, there is that option if you need it on yours. And while we're talking about weight here, let's also look at the side here and show you how to figure out if this is the right capacity jack for you. So what we're going to be looking for is our GVWR. That's our fully loaded weight that we could be at, and we're going to want to have a jack that's going to be capable of lifting 15% of that. So typically on your driver's side, you're going to have a sticker that talks about all the little things about your trailer from the manufacturer. And usually right at the top, it's going to have your GVWR. So if we look at this trailer, it's 10,400 pounds. So if we times that by 15%, it comes out to roughly around 1,500 pounds. So we know our 3,500 pound jack is well within its capacity range, and that's going to be a good fit for our trailer. So when it comes to the installation, trailer frame jacks are super easy to install, something you could easily do at home and just swap out in just a few minutes. The big thing is just preparation. So if you were at home, I would definitely recommend picking up some trailer jacks, using that to lift up your frame. That way you can take the pressure off of the original jack that's on there and get it swapped out. Now, maybe you just don't have trailer jacks. Maybe you're out on the road and you have to swap over to a new jack. That's where hooking up to your truck, whether that you're already hooked up or you have to use a manual override on your old jack, that way you can get it on there. Just something to help pick up that trailer frame, so that way you can easily get it swapped out. Now, if that's something that you feel just not comfortable with, maybe you just don't have the time to do so, then please feel free to use our dealer locator, and you can enter in your zip code to get it professionally installed. Now, if you are wanting to do this yourself, then stick around and I'll walk you through the process. So starting off our install, we're first going to have to figure out how our current jack is installed. So you may just have threads tapped into your frame rail here, or you could have a nut possibly on there, or even a weld nut. In our case, I did a little bit of investigating already. It is just threads tapped into the metal here, and then they kind of sealed it up with spray foam, so that way, there's no critters getting in there and starting to make a mess. With our specific one, we're using a 9/16 socket, and we're just going to pop these 3 bolts out. Now, I already have my trailer frame supported. I've got 2 jack stands over here to help hold it up. And we're just going to work this off. Once we get these loose, I'm going to then disconnect it from the battery as well. Now, I am going to retain this hardware because there isn't hardware included with our new jack, which is typically the case. But if your hardware is starting to look not so good, maybe it's corroded out, needs to be replaced, too rusty, then that'd be a good time to also pick some up. We've got 1 power wire coming in down through the bottom here, so we're going to have to disconnect it. And luckily, all of our wires are actually labeled, so to make it super easy. So our jack looks like it's all the way on the bottom. There, get that disconnected. We'll put everything else back on. I'm going to leave that just hand tight for right now because we are going to come back with our power wire for our new jack, and we can get this out of our wire loom. Tape at the bottom here. There we go. And we're just going to push this down. I may have to just snip off that connector if our grommet is a little too tight. And I think I am going to do that just so we're not tearing it up trying to push that through. So I'm going to grab some wire cutters real quick and we'll get that cut off. Alright, now that we got that pulled through, we take off our drop leg. Lift our jack right out and set it aside. So now we will remove the drop leg from our new jack as well, so we can slot it right through our coupler. There we go. Line up our holes, and I'm just going to go ahead and start mounting this up right now, and then we can run our wiring down and get right through that grommet again. Now I am mounting this with the buttons facing forward, but a lot of people will want to have it facing maybe towards the driver's side or passenger side, depending on just where they are typically going to be standing when they're using the jack. And some people will even also try to flip it around. Now in this case with this mounting pattern, we'd have to drill new holes if we wanted to flip it around. So that's not really an option for us in this case. But some people like to do that just to help kind of protect the head, protect the buttons. That way if any road debris would pop up, it wouldn't hit it. One thing I do highly recommend though is getting yourself a cover to go over this. If you got the bag that'll cover that up, that'll keep it from getting water, snow, anything like that that could potentially start deteriorating the jack, and then it's going to last a whole lot longer for you. Now with our ground wire, normally I would just use a ring terminal and shoot it right into the frame rail. But since we have this nice toolbox right here with our battery inside, and that's going to be covered and help protect it from any kind of corrosion, I'm going to just pop that in and we will hook it up to our battery ground as well. So let's get these wires pushed through. Now for my wiring, I'm going to use some wire loom to help protect it, and then I'm also going to be zip tying it at the top here and then also down below. And that's going to kind of help if for any reason the wires start to get yanked on. That'll help kind of protect it, not rip it out of the jack and then cause a much larger issue. If we ever needed to, we could always add more wire on, but we can't open this up and really get in there and add new wire to it if it gets ripped out of the motor. So I'm going to get this all buttoned up. Now for our connection to the battery, we're just going to be using a simple ring terminal, and we will crimp that down on there. And I will get my negative going first. Now we'll do the same thing with our positive side here too. Now this one has some wire loom that's already in place, so I think I'm going to get it through that first, and then I'll hook it up to my terminal here just so that all of our positive wires are kind of together. Now we can connect our positive wire. And I know that this battery is dead, so we are going to have to hook it up to a charger so that we can actually test out our jack. All right, now that we're hooked up, we've got our charger on, starting to recharge that battery up. And you can see we have our light coming on, no problem here. We can raise and lower. So now at this point, I'm going to run it out just a bit so that we can get our drop leg back on. Probably go with the higher setting, that way we're not running it out as far. Well, it's going to do it for our look at and installation of the Etrailer electric tongue jack here on our enclosed trailer. My name's Kevin, and if you still have some questions about what's going to be the right electric tongue jack for your trailer, then please feel free to reach out to us via our Ask the Experts link, a comment on this video, or a phone call to our customer service department, and we'd be happy to help you out on your journey.